Hello and welcome to another episode of Levitate Live with me, Ryan Nell. Uh, Today I'm tired. I don't know. How are you feeling today? I stayed up too late watching Ozark for what it's worth, and doing a jigsaw puzzle because I've been working pretty hard recently. I think part of it is just making up for lost time. So I yeah, 2 weeks of kind of and now I think I'm probably overcompensating because all the symptoms are now not quite a distant memory, but left behind at the tail end of last week, and I'm feeling energetic and like I want to catch up on some work and hopefully put some good stuff out into the world. So that means Netflix gets relegated to the twilight hours if there's time for it at all. Anyway, enough about me. I hope that you are keeping well and calm and finding some kind of balance because the temptation is to go a bit bonkers in a time like this. So well, a little bit mad is okay, but trying to achieve some level of balance is a challenge for all of us at the best of times. I thought I might start by just talking for a minute or two about Siddhartha. So I'm not a Buddhist, but I've read a fair bit about it. And of all the philosophies out there, it is one of the ones that really appeals to me the most, I think, as a way of living, as a way of structuring your life, as a way of seeing the world. It's beautiful. So you may or may not have read Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. It is a beautiful book. It's a funny book in a way. It's a sort of European writer's biography of the Buddha in his journey to becoming the Buddha. So it starts off with Prince Siddhartha kind of in a palace, his father's palace. His father is a Brahmin, a noble of some repute, a king. And Siddhartha himself is a prince. And it's like his whole life has been laid out for him. He wants for nothing in this beautiful garden, beautiful palace. Other than perhaps to find out who he actually is, find out whether there might be other ways of living his life. I suppose he was bitten by the bug of curiosity, wanting to know what was outside those palace walls. And so the book, without ruining it for you, consists of Siddhartha, stealing out over the palace walls one night and exploring what lies without them, outside them. And so on his journey, he is, firstly, I may get the order wrong, but he goes and visits the sort of Hindu extremists, the ascetics, the holy men, mostly, living out in the forest. And you've got all kinds of characters there. You've got people who have decided to bury themselves up to the neck in sand, and they're going to live their life buried in the sand. And then you've got sadhus who are, wasting away as they eat the barest minimum to feed themselves. You've got people who are clothed in nothing. You've got people who've decided to sit in a single position for year after year after year. And I think Siddhartha tries it for a while and works out that seems rather extreme, rather joyless, perhaps, not very much like living at all. And so his journeys next take him to seek out other holy folk. He is lurching from one extreme to another, as we all do in our lives. Now, where he ends up is finding what we all now know as the middle way. And the middle way is a way of living your life where you become accepting of the fact that often, well, that there are all sorts of extremes. And perhaps all of them, most of them, are worth experiencing, if only so that you can say, I've been to that extreme, and I found it extreme. And I was next tempted to explore another extreme, but hopefully at some point you start to understand that life is, well, it's not only about extremes, that there is this middle path, this sort of way of reconciling things that seem to be at opposite ends of the extreme and finding out that they're all deeply connected. Hopefully that makes some level of sense to you. I know that personally, on an individual level, I most frequently get that pleasure, while they're only contrasted against extremes of pain or suffering. And that is an extreme way to live your life. The middle way, though, it's not about all good things in moderation. It's a little bit of that, but it's more about understanding that the extremes exist to show us just how connected everything is, to illustrate that if we want to live our lives, in some kind of search of perfection. I've been speaking about perfection a lot recently. Many of us are perfectionists. You might not think of yourself in that way, but if you live your life in search of perfection, then you miss out on the messy, busy living. Meditation is about finding some kind of balance. It's about understanding that life isn't about perfection. It's not about the extremes. It's about understanding that they all exist on a continuum. And the way to feel most alive is to let go of some of that need for perfection, some of those needs for peak experiences, and to become a little more accepting and balanced and restful in a life which is frequently imperfect, in situations that frequently leave us wanting in our own relationship with ourselves. And one beautiful way to do that is to connect with your breathing. Now, a lot of us, I'm not qualified to teach you breath work, but in some of my training, it definitely treats upon pranayama, or breath work, working with the breath. Now, a lot of us, and it's kind of shallow and it's kind of constricted, and we don't realize we're doing it. But it keeps us in kind of fight and flight. Well, fight and flight is the definition of extreme. It is pure survival. It is deciding whether you're going to have to tussle with danger, or whether there's a way that you might freeze and it might pass you by, or whether you can simply escape it entirely. But it is an extreme way of living. It's an extreme. Of course, what we want to try and achieve is that we breathe with our bellies when we can. And that kind of deep, slow belly breathing is when we come out of fight and flight, when we activate our parasympathetic nervous system for what it's worth, when all the healing takes place, when we get out of this kind of jumpy, anxious relationship with our day, and create a bit of space for rest and relaxation and more measured responses to things. So let's attempt to achieve that right now for the next 5-10 minutes tops. We'll start by taking your mouth, and again in, and out. Starting to allow your eyes to fall closed. Starting to see if you can send your breath more deeply into your body. Starting to let go of any stress, any anxiety, any tension you might be feeling. There's nothing else you need to do. There's nothing you need to fix. And as you breathe, you can start to recognize which parts of yourself are tense, which parts of you are soft, which seem to double down on constriction, which seem more open to expansion. If your shoulders are tense, can you imagine you're breathing into your shoulders? As we start to breathe in and out through our noses, we'll continue to use that breath to explore the sensations in our bodies. What does it feel like to be you right now, in this body, in this moment? Can you allow your temples to soften, your jaws to soften, your gaze to soften? And we'll breathe together for a few moments, just breathing in through your nose and out through your nose, and in and out. And in for 1 and 2, and out for 1, 2 and 3, and in for 1, 2, 3, and out for 1, 2, 3 and 4, and in for 1, 2, 3 and 4, and out for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and in for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and out for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and in for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And see if you can keep with this. Out for 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and in for 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we'll end with 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Notice how good that feels. Notice perhaps the relief if you were finding tense. The idea is that the slower you go, the deeper the breath flows. When you're breathing through your nostrils, you're able to really slow things down a little. And when you're with your breath like that, when you're staying with your breathing, you're entirely present. Your mind's not jumping ahead to the future, you're not reminiscing about the past. You're in the present moment. Think of being present as the middle way. The future is an extreme that hasn't yet happened. The past is an extreme that's already gone. And somewhere in the middle of those two is the expansive present, is how much attention you can bring to it. Now, I'm becoming increasingly convinced that attention and love are synonyms. They're just different words for the same thing. The more attention or awareness you're able to bring to a situation, the deeper the connection you feel. And if that isn't love, I don't know what is. So love your life. See if you can, from time to time, allow yourself to connect to the here and now simply by taking a breath. And don't worry if you feel that your life veers from one extreme to another. That's most of us. But this practice is about realizing that although they are extremes, the darkness and the light, the sense of having a self or other, well, they're all so inextricably connected. And the perfect, which is at one end of the extreme, sort of suggests that imperfect or downright failure is at the other end. But we want to find this middle way, this gentler path, this sense that things can and will be imperfect. And that's okay. Together, let's take a deep, slow breath in through the nose. Then go with a sigh. Just allowing your shoulders to soften, your temples, your brows, your jaws, your chest, your belly. When you like, you could blink open your eyes and start to drink in and connect with your surroundings if you've been somewhere. Thank you so much for joining for another one of these. Hope you have a very beautiful or just average, normal, everyday day ahead. Catch you back here tomorrow for another episode of Levitate Live. Sign up for a class if you fancy joining in with a community for a longer class. All the details are on the website, www.levitate.live, along with the podcast and other marvelous things. So take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and I'll see you back here soon. Thanks so much.